We will, we will begin by discussing the importance of chronic conditions and why it is critical that we understand the nature of these diseases. Moving on, we will discuss how therapeutic exercise is growing to become a highly recognized form of treatment for the prevention and management of disease. Lastly, this presentation will look at specific conditions and how exercise benefits them both physiologically and psychologically. It is important that we understand the prevalence of chronic conditions. The World Health Organization has identified that more than 14 million people between the ages of 30 and 70 die each year from chronic conditions. And what's even more scary is this number is projected to rise sharply in the years to come. This places large amounts of pressure on our healthcare system. This table demonstrates how chronic health conditions are a growing concern in Australia. This National Health Survey found that over 7 million people have at least one chronic condition. What we can see here also is that as age increases, so does the prevalence of the risk of developing more than one condition. Well, what exactly is a chronic condition? As the name suggests, a chronic condition is long-term. It results in some form of disability or physical impairment and can rarely be cured completely. This explains why there's such an emphasis for searching on ways that manage and prevent chronic disease from occurring in the first place. Hippocrates once quoted, "Walking is a man's best medicine." We've probably never really questioned this, as prior to pre-industrial societies, people were gaining enough physical activity by the nature of their lifestyles. Moving on to modern day society, we can see our lifestyle has become sedentary. We've got excess stress, processed foods, and are working more hours than ever. Modern research is proving just how medicinal exercise can be. There is an abundance of literature confirming that individuals who maintain at least moderate levels of functional capacity have lower rates of morbidity and mortality. And clinical trials have shown that increases in exercise participation are better than just taking pills. A study following Harvard alumni found those who regularly participated in exercise had lowered their risk of death by 23%. And the strongest indicator of death was low respiratory fitness. A study following nurses found women who went from no exercise to just 1 hour per week reduced their risk of heart disease by almost half. One of the leading causes of death is cardiovascular disease. It affects more than 3.4 million Australians and costs the Australian healthcare system $6 billion. Well, exercise can slow down and prevent heart disease. The Australian Heart Foundation states that exercise improves the individual's cardiovascular profile by decreasing blood pressure and modulating lipids. An epidemiological study found that evidence increased aerobic capacity through participating in cardiovascular exercise improved cholesterol by it decreased low-density lipoprotein and increases high-density lipoprotein. This study also found that after angina, exercise slowed down and prevented further attacks. In a randomized clinical trial, the American College of Sports Medicine reported that cardiac patients who exercised often resulted in a 20 to 25% lower death rate. Moving on to the global epidemic of diabetes. It's growing faster than ever. Every 10 seconds, 2 people develop diabetes, and by the time I finish this sentence, 3 people would have died from this condition. On average, people with diabetes die 5 to 10 years earlier. And it's related to heart disease. Those with diabetes are more than twice as likely to suffer from a heart attack or a stroke. But great news. It's been found that physical activity can help delay and even prevent type 2 diabetes. In a randomized control study, found that participants who exercise just 150 minutes per week improved their body weight, increased the insulin sensitivity by reducing the amount of blood glucose, and improved their overall quality of life. The participants in this study also reported greater energy levels. Another major condition of concern is osteoporosis. This pathological condition is associated with bone mass and affects 1.2 million people nationally. Furthermore, it's estimated that 6.3 million people have got low bone density. So how do we fix this? We exercise. It's been proven that exercise can maintain and even improve bone mineral density. Clinical evidence by Osteoporosis Australia suggests that moderate to high intensity exercise increases bone mineral density, whilst participating in low intensity exercise still maintains bone mineral density. Another important factor for people who already have osteoporosis is that participating in balance types exercise increases neuromuscular control. This is important as it increases balance, which reduces the risk of falling and breaking bones. 6% of falls in the elderly result in a fracture, so preventing falls from occurring in the first place plays an important role in bone health. Interestingly enough, not only is exercise beneficial for physical conditions, but there are also many studies showing the positive effects of exercise on chronic mental health conditions. A national health survey found that an estimated 3.2 million Australians, that is 20% of the population aged between 16 and 85, have a mental disorder. What neuroscience is founding is that exercise is helpful and inexpensive for treating psychiatric disorders. Exercise helps prevent and reduce symptoms and the severity of mental health conditions, including depression and anxiety. Exercise reduces anxiety by 48%. And those who participate in just minimal exercise decrease their depression by 30%. When the dose is upped, depression is minimized by 47%. Neuroscience has also found that exercise increases vascularization and increases interneuron connections, reducing the progress of dementia and Alzheimer's disease by 50%. Furthermore, exercise benefits the psychosomatic, that is, the breakdown of muscle tension patterns that reflect psychological tensions. Exercise also increases self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-efficacy. Aging. It's something that every human being faces. What's really interesting is that research has discovered astronauts who travel into space experience all features of accelerated aging. This has become an interest for clinical studies, as astronauts who return develop balance and coordination problems. They also lose bone mineral density and muscle strength. These clinical trials have found that bone strength can diminish 1% per year starting from the peak of 24 to 30 years old. These studies have found that participating in exercise prevents deterioration of muscle quality and quantity. It reduces the risk of injury and slows down the loss of independence for our elderly. Participating in exercise increases functional capacity. It increases motor coordination and sensory organ organising of postural control. Overall, it helps our elderly stay independent by improving their functional body movement, increasing the range of motion, and maintaining their muscular strength and endurance. Overall, there is no doubt that exercise is beneficial to all people suffering with chronic conditions. Through participating in regular exercise and physical activity, patients are able to better manage the symptoms of their diseases and reduce the risk of developing a second condition. And for our healthy population, those who get out and about participating at a minimum of just 1 hour of exercise per week reduce their risk of developing a chronic condition.